Thanks for listening to another episode of the Business Talks podcast. We have a special guest coming back for a second time today. Leilani from Be the Change HR, as the CEO, is here to talk about really the COVID-19 crisis and how businesses, specifically even small businesses, can implement some things and give some advice around what small businesses and businesses at large should be doing. We'll probably also get into a little bit about what the leadership team should be doing and even the employees as well. So Leilani, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for virtually having me this week.
Yes. Yeah, it's a weird thing. I always swore I would never do virtual podcasts. I've been asked by a lot of people to do them, and I was always just like, nope, if you can't be in Southern California, then you're not coming on. And now I'm doing them virtual by way of COVID-19. So yeah, no, it's good to have you. And yeah, I guess, most of the listeners have probably already listened to your episode. It was actually one of the most downloaded episodes we had to date. And so I think a lot of people already know you and what you do, but could you just give a brief kind of overview of Be the Change HR and what you guys do for those that maybe don't know?
Yeah, definitely. So Be the Change HR, we help small, mid-sized businesses with their human resources. For small businesses, sometimes, you don't have someone at all who does human resources, or sometimes someone, usually accounting, right? I don't know why they do that to them. They hand them human resources. They say, okay, just figure it out. And then the person dives in and they go, wait a second, this is so difficult. Like I can't do what I've been trained to do. And then also that. So we help businesses with their human resources from not only a compliance side, but the strategy side as well. Also, Be the Change HR is a social enterprise. So we help people via nonprofits getting back to work through classes that we teach, and then also job readiness coaching. So if you can imagine right now, I'm getting phone calls from nonprofits where people are being laid off and they're asking for assistance just with simple things like resume help. So we offer that in order to help the community around us for free.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, first off, you need to meet Charles Antis, who I had on this morning. Very, very involved in the nonprofit space, and you guys would get along great if you haven't already met or bumped into each other. Okay, good. Yeah, so an amazing guy, and we had a lot of fun on our interview this morning as well. And it was, I think, my first time actually meeting him. I'd seen him speak a few times, but but by way of introduction, so maybe specifically small businesses, you mentioned before we came on, there's some things that small businesses, which we would classify as under 50 employees, right?
Correct.
Can do. And so this sounds like it's an ACA type thing, right? Where over 50 and under 50, there's a certain amount of liability that the company takes on. So if you'd like to share that, and then we can kind of dig into it a bit.
So overview, I know you all have been inundated like I have been with email upon webinar with all the new laws going on. One of them is the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. I won't go into all the details of it because you probably have heard of it 10 times over. The one thing I do want to talk about, though, is what my clients are asking me. There is an exemption in there. It's a small business exemption. Can I share my screen real quick?
Yeah, should be fine.
Yeah. So let me show you really quickly. Please ignore how many tabs I have open just because I have lots of tabs. It's like my brain is like that. So if you are an employer under 50 employees, you can apply for this exemption. There is no process to apply for it. You just have to prove these things. And so these are the 3 different scenarios. You just have to meet one of these scenarios. And if you meet one of these scenarios, then you could be exempt from the Family First Coronavirus Response Act. And so the first one is the one that I am talking to my clients mostly about. And basically what it says that if paying out the emergency paid sick leave, if paying out the emergency FMLA pay would damage your business to the point where you wouldn't be able to operate anymore, then you would be exempt, right? So that's the first one you see there. The other 2 are about the absence of the employee requesting paid sick leave would do a substantial financial risk. And then finally, or there are not sufficient workers who are willing and able who will be available at the time to perform the services. But most people are going to fall under the first one, right? I can't afford to do this. And so what I am advising my clients to do and what we're doing for our clients is we are doing a financial model in order to show them or show it just in case someone asks for this information, like the Department of Labor or a lawsuit, on how it would have affected the business. So, how much the employees make, and then the different scenarios. What if I had to pay out emergency FMLA? What if I had to pay out the emergency sick leave? And there's two different scenarios and two different scenarios for pay. There's one that costs max $511 a day. There's one that costs max $200 a day, right? So there's all these scenarios. So I recommend, if you're in this situation and you have the ability to do so, to run some models at, hey, what if 25% of my workforce takes this specific leave, and then do it for all three different scenarios. And then what if 50% of my workforce could I possibly pay out that dollar amount, based on your revenue and your profit margins? Like, would I be able to pay this? And so that's what I'm recommending businesses to do, or you can get a consultant like us to run in, and we need just very simple information: employee name, pay data, and with their hire date, and we can do that for people. But that's what I'm suggesting. Just keep it on file. The Department of Labor does not want you to send them anything. They've got enough going on right now. Yeah. But you want to keep it so you can prove that.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of been the underlying theme as we've done a few of these interviews too, is just in the area of, don't send the DOL anything, but it definitely is going to be something that's going to come back around, right? There's going to be a lot of compliance work done on every business between now and probably the end of this year. And to not just assume that, well, it doesn't really matter. The government's not going to chase us down because the coronavirus, they're understanding. They're probably going to need to make more revenue than before. So they're probably going to have to go after companies even more. And this just provides almost a whole nother revenue stream for them in terms of fees and fines for businesses. And so to rest in the fact that the laws are pretty much still the same, and then you have a few new bullet points and caveats, some of which you just mentioned. But to rest in the fact that it's pretty much what you've always done. I think Ann and I talked about that as well. This is what you've always done, but then here's a few new things that you need to get your head around and figure out what's the best way for your company to move forward with these new few bullet points or rules added to it. Does that sound fair there?
Totally. And here's what I'm not, and we're not much of a doom and gloom company, right? And I know human resources, people don't like us, but we don't preach that a whole lot. But in this scenario, I'm going to put it. If I actually gambled, I would bet a lot of money that there's going to be a lot of wonky lawsuits coming out of this. Mm-hmm. People are working from home, with this exemption, maybe denied benefits. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of things that we're not normally used to handling because of the huge change that we're all going through right now. And also, when people get desperate, sometimes they do desperate things. Yeah. And we want to make sure, to always do right by employees, of course. We also want to make sure that we are covering ourselves on the different simple things. Like I had a client ask, hey, can we just switch everyone to exempt because they should be happy to have a job still? And they don't have to clock in anymore. I'm like, well, you still have to do that. The rules are still the rules, even more now than ever because of the sensitive situation that we're in right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like it's going to be very interesting, having watched plenty of those webinars we mentioned, even just them talking about how, OSHA laws that, white collar law firms, marketing firms have never even had to worry about, now all of a sudden could be classified as an unsafe work environment. And so we're going to see some lawsuits that we may have hardly ever seen come out in the next year. I would not be surprised to see that, just because the dynamic has changed completely. And so, I've read a couple articles already of different companies where all the employees walked out because they weren't able to get the 95 mask or something like that. And they felt unsafe in their work environment because of the COVID-19 crisis that's going on. And so it's definitely an unprecedented time, and it's going to be interesting to see how all of this kind of shakes out.
I learned from one of my colleagues yesterday with workers' compensation and COVID-19, and it was something along the lines of the language was, you have rights if there is imminent danger in the workplace and you're not provided what you need. And if you're a construction worker outside, does that mean that you should have an N95? Well, you might already because you're in construction, but should you have an N95 mask? And is it imminent danger in that work environment? And could you walk out on your job with that, being an issue and report to OSHA? Probably not. So right, there's so many different situations that are going on right now where I'm getting those calls like, hey, my employees are scared to come to work. What do I do?
Yeah. No, it's definitely a very, very different time. So kind of shifting gears, we talked about small business, and obviously the larger businesses have their own caveats as well. But let's take a step back, not talk so much about the legality, the compliance, and the laws. Let's just talk about, the leadership team within an organization, maybe HR or finance or, any of the C-suites that are involved in this. What are some things that you think they should be doing or keeping top of mind as they go through this time? And I know it, just to give a caveat again, it does depend because some businesses are completely shut down, right? They press pause, everybody's furloughed, or then you have the groups that are able to work remote, or at least certain portions of the population can work remote. What would be some advice? Because I know you coach a lot on leadership, and probably even more than compliance, I would say. And that's really, I think, what you're known for more. Having done all the compliance piece in the past, I know in our last episode we did together, we talked a lot more about leadership and a lot more about culture. So could you give some advice to companies? And you can divide that up how you like, whether they're remote or furloughed, laid off, however you want to address that.
Yeah. So communication is key. And I've always, when I talk to leaders, I always talk about transparency, right? So with your first group, maybe there is a layoff, maybe there is a furlough, but I'm advising people that if you have that situation, then make an agreement with the people that you've laid off, especially if you're going to bring them back, right? To communicate on a regular basis. Hey, I know we're going through a furlough. I know that you've been laid off, but here's my promise to you. I will email you biweekly and let you know where we're at. That way, they have communication with the company that they know cares about them. They know that they want to bring them back, and they're being transparent and honest. Like, here's where we're at. And so, maybe with the different programs that are out there like CARES Act, it's a possibility to bring these people back sooner than later. But to leave them in the dark would be, even, not great for the company, not great for the person. So in situations, that's communication. And then in the other, it is, constantly communicating with your team. I have a lot of businesses that are remote right now, and I have leadership who, one of my clients, Ekman Associates, they email their team once a week right now to let them know what's going on, even if they're not saying anything, right? It's like, well, we're still
new.
we're still keeping an eye on this. You are important to us. We will keep in communication with you. So I think that is really important. We're all moving to things like Zoom, like this call, Google Hangouts, Teams. So in any instance where we can, I would suggest that we have face-to-face communication with our teams. I did have I forgot who I heard it from. It was such a great thing. He called it No Mascara Friday. If we want to, bring them in there, no mascara, no shave Friday. And so no video conferencing on Friday. You don't have to put makeup on or shave your face before you come to the conference. But having the opportunity to see each other face to face is so important that, we're all missing that human contact. I can't tell you how great it feels when I go to some networking meetings and I see, a ton of people. So I'm advising, face-to-face contact as much as possible. Another fun thing that I think teams should start doing, I know everybody's doing the happy hour, right? But I think companies should designate lunch times. So, hey, from 12 to 12:30 to 1 or whatever, 12 to 1, we're going to have an open Zoom line and anybody can join. Bring your lunch, and we're not going to talk about business. Talk about how you're feeling. Talk about what's going on in your life. Talk about how your 4 kids at home who are now being homeschooled are driving me nuts. But that way, it gives the team the ability to communicate as if like they were around the water cooler in the lunchroom together. So I think that's really beneficial to do as well. And for leaders, stay strong. Your morning rituals that keep you calm, whatever that may be, meditation or prayer, exercising, whether it's in your front room in front of your kids that are laughing at you or in your backyard, keep those healthy habits up so, you can support your team. We have to be healthy first and foremost in order to support our businesses and our teams, right? Yeah. Important.
Absolutely. And then, you brought up kids, and obviously I have two. My wife's actually gone getting an ultrasound for our third right now. And so I had to make sure they had pants on because I didn't want them walking into a Zoom call with no pants on. So, and I give them a preemptive snack. So I think we're good. I've yet to hear any door knocking or anything like that. I think I just.
Well, you know what? Tell them HR says you need to have pants on. You need to have pants on when you go to desk work, okay?
Right. But all joking aside, that brings a whole other dynamic into play, right? Maybe you have a very high performing worker. They're in the office. Now all of a sudden they're remote and they've got 3 kids who are usually in high school and junior high and are now all home, or younger kids that they really have to watch, right? And so, how should leadership take that into account? Should it be on a kind of an individual case-by-case basis if, your highest performing employee who always gets everything done is now kind of falling behind a little bit because, their whole world is changing at this point,
Again, open communication. Let's talk about it. Like if I knew someone had toddlers at home, what could we do to the work schedule? Because we have to balance 2 things, the employee and their needs, and people are really needing things right now as far as, their families, their mental health, their health, and then running a business. We have these 2 things we have to balance. So it's an open discussion of, if this is difficult for you in the day, would a staggered day work better for you? If the business can do that, I have some clients who have literally staggered their entire team for 2 reasons. One, they're on some type of technical system that only allows so many people one time, or it shuts down, unfortunately. Yeah. And the other is people at home with kids. And so it's like, this is a beautiful solution. Your early birds can work at 4 or 5 in the morning. And then during the day, figure out, the 4 hours or whatever they can do where they can jump in and help, do what they need to do with the children and then help them with the business. And then I have other people who are working late at night. Yeah. Is it ideal? No. But here's the situation we're in. We're doing what we can to sustain. And yeah, there are a lot of people who are fortunate to have jobs. And we're having employees who are definitely willing to be flexible like that to help, in those situations, and employers who are doing the same thing because it is difficult. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think that an unprecedented time, it definitely requires a lot of extra thought put into it. It's not just, okay, we're going remote. Everybody, you need to be available on Teams. You need to have the little green dot above every single one of your communicative devices, if you will. And available from 9 to 5. There could be very real difficulties there where I have a friend who lives in San Francisco, a very good friend of mine, and he has no kids, but it's him and his wife, and they live in San Francisco. So they basically live in a closet, right? And I think they have a 1-bedroom apartment that's probably not more like a studio, if you know San Francisco. And they both have jobs and they both have to be on the phone on a regular basis. And so he's literally like working half of his day out on the deck, which is like just a little square area, just so that he can jump on a call while his wife is also on a call. There's some very real difficulties that you don't really think of as an employer, right? Or you really don't think about, and would be almost impossible. If you had 50 employees, everybody goes remote all of a sudden, you have 50 very different working places at this point and 50 very different scenarios with each employee. Some rely on schooling to make sure that their kids, are being taken care of while they're at work. That's no longer available. There's a lot of different issues that could be coming up. It could be as simple as we need toilet paper and paper towels, and it's in stock from 9 to 10 in the morning. So I need to go and get that because it's not in any store in the area. It could be very practical things like that too. So maybe just giving a little more flexibility and being a little understanding of your employees. If all of a sudden on Teams, they're not available for an hour and a half, understanding that, they're going to do their best to get the work done. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that they're 9 to 5 available anymore. Is that?
Yeah. And I mean, here's the beauty of it. If I can say that, we're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
So they're not the only worker and they're not the only business that's dealing with this. I've had some teams who do some accountability and measurements, for their performance. And they were asking me, can we still hold them these numbers? No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I was hoping you were going to say that.
Let's reduce it. Now,
Yeah.
let's reduce it, by 10, 20% and see how it goes there. But to hold them to the same standard when they were all working in cubicles it's not going to work for
Yeah.
everyone. It's hard. And so let's give people some slack during this time period. And they're going to remember that too. Can you imagine if someone was telling you had, like the kids you have at home, I need you available from 8 to noon and 1 to 5. Like that, children don't go on schedule. They don't punch clocks.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. So another conversation that I've been having a lot in these podcasts, and I'd be interested to get your opinion on it. Let's say a business is pretty much just furloughed or laid off at this point. They've had to press pause on their entire business model at this point. Maybe the executive team is meeting in the office space or via Zoom and discussing it, but everybody else is kind of laid off, right? What projects or what strategy do you think they should be working on, right? I mean, it's awful that they've had to stop doing business. But if they can foresee, yes, we should be able to open up our doors and we'll be bringing back our employees, or at least most, if not all of them. Is there something that you think they should really be focused on right now? Something that they should take advantage of this time?
What do you mean?
Like in terms of strategy. So maybe it's a time for them to rethink their entire culture when everybody comes back, or is there a project or something like that they've all of a sudden got all this free time and there is something that they could focus on to make their business more efficient when they press start again, I guess is the best way to ask that.
Yeah. One of my colleagues was saying, when this first started, I was telling her like, what do we do now? And she's, what? Like this sometimes is a time when you have downtime to work on your business, right? Instead of in your business. And I completely agree with that. So if there is time, what I would encourage them to do is really, really either develop your core values for your company, which will trickle down into everything, including your culture, or rethink your values. What are your values, and are they the right ones for your business? And so through that process, one can start thinking, okay, well, how have I in the past interjected these core values into things we do to manage the culture, into things we do to manage performance, how we hire people? Could we restructure that process for it to be better? So, talking about a recruiting process, even something as simple as that, maybe a company does the traditional, put the ad out, do the phone screen, then bring them in the office, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe it could be a time for them to think about how do we interject core values and what our company stands for into the very first process that brings people into the company. I think that would be really valuable to do. So core values first, and then look at other, processes from an HR perspective in the company to see, is it working for the company? And then can we improve it? And if we can, how can we do that?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It's very similar to the other answers I've had from Charles and from Ann as well, as to be expected. And I think that that's pretty much all you can do. If you're paused on your business right now, the best thing that you could do with your time, with those that are still on or those that are still working on the business, is to look at processes and things that you've done over the years that maybe were just kind of thrown together because you're busy, you're doing business, you don't have time to deal with this problem or that problem, or how to optimize our onboarding process, or, and mingle it with our core values, things like that, are almost like wish list things that you wish you had time to do, but you're too busy running a business. Now, if you press pause, now is the time, right? I mean, go through every system that you have as an organization and say, what things could we make better, which are only going to help as we move forward once we finally get to press play again on our business.
I love that. And then, for people personally, I know there's things that I've been wanting to do that have to do with the business that I haven't been able to start yet. Like I've been saying for years, I want to write a book. Maybe it's time to do something, for yourself as a leader. Those things were things that you've been wanting to do, but you've always pushed aside. Another thing I think that is important is SOPs, right? If the business stops, I think it's really important to have like a playbook for people to look at. How do these processes work?
Yeah.
Right. It's a good time to start doing that, So.
Yeah.
Totally.
And what about, and this is just something that I was thinking about, but what about onboarding itself? So let's say you laid off 100 employees and now you're going to be onboarding them back on. what if you've done that via paper all these years? I mean, is that something that they should be like, we need to get a system in place now? Is that something that they just need to get ready for it and prepare all the forms and paperwork ahead of time? I mean, just like the logistical idea of taking employees off and then now bringing on a massive amount of workforce, where you want to hit the ground running. You don't want to have to, only bring on 20 people a week, sheerly just for the fact that you could only get 20 people on a week. Is there anything around that you think would
totally?
Good?
I work in HR. You know how much paper we see in my entire career that I've seen? I am so anti-paper. So anti-paper. So automated onboarding is the way to go, especially here in the state of California. There's like 10 documents we have to give people. Can you imagine how much printing or emailing you need to do for that? So check with your payroll company to see, do I have, an automated onboarding process, and can it be customized with electronic signatures?
Yeah.
I also know of, sir, this, Matt, there's certain benefit brokers will offer a platform called Ease. I think it was called Ease Central prior to. Yeah. Either they offer it at a low cost or they offer it for free. And clients can utilize that not only for the benefit administration, that's why the brokers have it, right? But also they have an onboarding system that you can use through it. And so maybe there is an option if you're smaller, or if you're looking for some type of option, that could possibly be one of them that wouldn't cost you too much and might not be as much as a whole entire payroll conversion if you don't have that ability in your payroll company now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that kind of brings up another point that I've talked with a few guests so far about so when you have a question like, okay, I've read the compliance laws. I know that I'm going to do what I always did, but with these extra bullet points or caveats added, and I think I've read the laws, but I'm just scared. I'm worried that I'm going to do something wrong and it's going to come back to bite us because it's not something they learned, in an SPHR certification. It's not something that they learned in college or any of that. This is an unprecedented situation with its own unique factors. And they're just worried, like, I'm going to make a mistake and it could potentially cause the business a lot of money or a lot of hassle or problems later on in the future. What would be kind of the first step for them to check maybe a compliance law or something like that in your mind?
So I was going to say Google it. That's not the right answer. A lot of what we deal with in HR, I always make this joke, is not an emergency. It can wait, right? So the first thing I would do would be like, even if people are breathing down your neck, you have to get it done right now. You don't have to do that. Ask for time. Make sure you get the proper resource. Yeah. My advice would be to go to an HR professional or an attorney to talk about what that thing is to help you sort through that. If you are knowledgeable enough to know what websites to check for real info, a lot of times I get people like, I Googled this, what was the last one? Oh, double time. You get double time over 60 hours a week. I'm like, where did you see that? And it's all on the internet. And I'm like, oh, don't, because, you need to know the right sites to go to. So yes, government resources can be very, very helpful if you know where to go. But the first thing is to, ask an HR professional. I always say somebody always knows one. So you could always try to see if you can ask your network or even in your family and go to that person, ask them, and then get the resources from them so that you're knowledgeable yourself in the future. Like say, hey, send me the link where you found that out. I have a lot of people ask me that. I think it's great. So I send them the link. Here's where the information is at, so they have it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that you said it almost exactly the way that Ann said it as well, where, go to the HR consultant first, I would say, mainly because of the cost, right, of the advice. Yeah. If you're going to go to a labor attorney, you're going to get a higher cost. And with cost being an issue for pretty much every business in the United States right now, go to an HR consultant, get the advice you need until you're comfortable making that next step. And then the next, of course, would be talk to a labor attorney. There's going to be those types of jobs or businesses that just have such a unique situation that you're just worried no matter what, even after you've got all the advice that you need, that, once you start that business again, or once you make that decision and go a route with whatever decision you're making, there's still that worry there that, it's going to come back to bite you in one way or another. And then I did interject with Ann as well, and I will with you, is definitely reach out to your broker, your benefits advisor, your risk management consultant, the firm that, is on your broker of record in 5,500 filings. Reach out to those guys, because I know for Hub, we have an ERISA attorney on staff out of not right now out of the Newport Beach office, but working remotely right now out of the Newport Beach office. And so anytime you could save money, try and go through one of the vendors, if you will, or one of the people that serves your business as well. So in my mind, I'd say definitely go to an HR consultant. They deal with this, and they definitely have been dealing with this on a regular basis, right? You've seen more scenarios than, a standard HR person at one business that has a very unique situation. And so I think you or Ann or many others out there could shine a really good light on, this is probably the best route for you to take as a business. And then I would say definitely before you go pay an attorney, reach out to your broker, because quite a few of them have depth of resources that you just don't even know to tap into. Most of them, I know Hub provides Think HR for free to all its clients. And so, that's another resource there where you can send just to kind of request the filings and the answers to it. That's 90% of probably all the questions that Think HR is funneling through right now. So they're probably pretty adept at handling that situation. And use those internal resources as best you can. And then definitely contact a labor attorney if you're just not comfortable enough, or if it's just such a unique situation that you really don't have that like solidity. And yes, this is the right answer for my business.
Yeah, because I completely agree with you and her. What happens is they ask us the question, and then we know where to go, right? I had a question yesterday, the company, they're kind of borderline small. They have under 20, but I'm not sure if the broker, I asked them, where's your broker? Because they didn't know if the COBRA was going to come from the carrier, or if COBRA, they needed to do it themselves. And so I was like, where's your broker at? And like, we don't know who he is. I was like, how do you not know who the broker is? They need to help you. This is not my avenue. It's lean on experts in those situations.
Yeah. That's a problem if they haven't heard from the broker yet in all of this. But,
right.
But yeah, at the end of the day, I think it's a very unique situation that we're living through right now. And, it's going to play itself out, and we're probably going to develop new best practices. Hopefully those companies that are just completely on pause can spend this time to really focus their business strategy, their culture, their core values, as you and Charles mentioned earlier today, and really take advantage of this time. And those businesses that are remote, no one can be as optimized as they could be in an office space most of the time, and have those unique challenges. So, we're all just kind of crossing our fingers and hoping that, many businesses can make it through this situation, depending on, what their situation is.
Yes, totally true. I'm even giving some like little tips and tricks through blogs to my clients of very simple things like get up and get dressed like you're going for work. Don't go to work in your PJs. Yeah. Select a workspace where there's 2 feet on the ground and your computer is basically eye level. The 20/20 rule, so you don't have to wear glasses like me. Every 20 minutes, look away into the distance for 20 seconds. So reminding them of these very simple things. Yeah. And then also, I'm asking clients who have employees who are working from home of pictures of the workspace to make sure that it's safe. 9 times out of 10, they're going to be, but I made a joke, like we want to make sure that their employees are not, working on scaffolding or on the roof or somewhere where they shouldn't. And then that way you have something on file in case something does happen.
Yeah, I totally understand working on the roof too with children. Sometimes that is literally the only place you can run and hide. So that is definitely a good tip for everyone to do just for that reason alone. Well, great. Well, is there anything else that comes to mind or anything you want to share with the audience before we close out?
Yeah, something that I've seen within my clients and the community around us, I just so encouraged that employers are really, really taking care of their people. Mm-hmm. They're concerned for them and their health. They're working with their employees in order to create what they need in order for them to work from home so the business can sustain. And it's just so heartwarming. It's heartwarming because right now we're in such a difficult time. Yes, it is difficult to work from home. Yes, it is. Your whole workforce is moved from the office to their homes. Maybe you're laying off people. But even in the layoffs I've seen, and even in this transition, it's been such a heartwarming experience to see people really do care. So there's always a silver lining in all of these situations. And I just wanted to share that from my perspective. I've seen such wonderful things from people coming from the heart. And we'll all get through this. It will pass and we'll all be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone wants to reach out to you, they've got a small or medium-sized business, they need some consulting done by you, or they just want to connect with you and kind of follow some of the updates and blogs that you've been posting, what is the best way to reach out to you, to get in contact with you for any reason, I guess?
Yeah, visit our website. It's betachangehr.org. On there, you can sign up for a free 30-minute consult from me. So that's at the top of the page. At the bottom of the page, you can sign up for the newsletter. We're pushing out information that we think is pertinent. So it's important to sign up for that. And then if you want to talk to me directly, you can email me. It's Leilani, Leilani at bethechangehr.org.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate the time. I know you're extremely busy, but I appreciate you taking the time to come back. You're actually the first guest now that I've interviewed twice. So I don't know how great of a record that is, being on the podcast twice, but you definitely are the first one. So congratulations on that as well.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, of course, as always.